How's it going, everybody? It's Mystical here, and I'm back for the final episode that's planned of my How to Make a NASCAR 2003 3DO. And I want to congratulate those that have followed along in part 1 and 2, and you've, successfully made whatever model you've made and got up to this point. Basically, we've learned how to model, manipulate the tools. We've then created a model, and then we've created a texture, and then we've applied the texture to our model. So basically the model itself is finished, but it still is not in a format that works for NASCAR 2003. We actually have to make it a 3DO. And so the first thing we do before we export, you can actually do this while you're modeling, but I prefer to do it before you, after you texture and unwrap, because it's easier to see your model. And because this is so simple, it's not a big detrimental deal, but we need to triangulate this because currently you can see it's in quads, and NASCAR 2003 works in tris, and this doesn't add any extra vertice count because it's just putting extra lines, but we have to do it anyway. So if you're in object mode and you go over to the modifier, go to triangulate, then hit apply, and then we go to edit mode. Now you can see it's in tris. Everything has triangle shapes. It has to be like that to work in the game, and I believe the 3D SimAd program that we're going to get to actually does that for you, but I find it safer to do it in here. But anyways, now that our model is ready, and I mean, just an example before we go away from Blender forever now. I actually should have just done this. Close that quickly. And then we want to go to faces. Oops. Had it right the first time. So now you can see everything is in tris. That's all it done is added extra. That's how game engines usually work, or in tris. So it needs to be done that way to our texture. But you can see it didn't manipulate any of our UVs that we laid out. And you're more than welcome to triangulate your object before you unwrap it, but I find it's a lot easier just to do that afterwards, just because you have less lines that you see, and it makes your template cleaner when you're painting. But it's whatever you want. It's really up to you. That's just how I'm doing it for this. Okay, get rid of that. Go back to object mode. So make sure you're in object mode. Go up to File. I'm just going to quickly save. It's probably a good idea you do too. And then you want to export, and an OBJ is fine. It's actually kind of good that I'm doing this video now, because before 3ds SimAd didn't work with OBJs, which was a shame, because it's a very common file format. And you could export 3ds too, but we're going to do OBJ. So this is where naming convention's a lot more important. So I'm going to call it stand01. We hit export, and that's it. Because we already have our texture. Let's see, stand, yeah, I had the incorrect name one, but I have stand01, and then we have our model right here. Get rid of that material thing. So I'm going to make a folder and just call it complete. Okay, so this is literally all you need is your object file and your textures. Others have like specular maps and stuff, but we're not going into that complexity. We just got a simple diffuse map, which is the color. So now that we have our assets, you'll need to open, actually let's do the MIP. So now we need to convert the texture to a MIP. That's also what NASCAR 2003 uses, so you'll need to install WinMIP too. That came in those editing tools that I provided you guys with a link in the first video. So you need to install WinMIP too, and it should open like this. You want to make sure that NASCAR 2003 is selected, and I believe you want to go to Settings, Poppy Tools, and make sure Use Make MIP is selected. I think even Make STP works, but you need some of those selected, because I think sometimes it errors out if you don't. And then you want to go to Open. And also it's important, because if you noticed in my last episode, I saved the the texture has a TGA, it needs to be a TGA or a BMP, I believe, but I like using TGA. So you just open it, and now you can see your model here. And then there's a little drop down, you want to select MIP. And 3 is fine for the mapping. 0, 1, and 2 is like, is it going to tile vertically or horizontally or not? 3 is fine because the model doesn't go anywhere and everything else can stay the same. So now we got to go save. And it'll be a stand.1 MIP. Hit save. It's saving, and that's it. And you can reopen it if you want to check. And there you go. So now our texture is in a format that works for NASCAR 2003. So that's all you have to do there. All right. And so this is 3D SimEd. This is the program I said that would cost you money if you're serious about 3D modeling and doing stuff for NASCAR 2003. It's only like $30 to $40. Or you could have a friend do this for you, I suppose. But I think it's a great program, and the guy who does this, he makes it work with other racing games too. But I've put in a couple features from him in the past that I asked if he could get working, and he did it, and it's been invaluable for me. This is the program that has allowed you guys to see all the tracks that I've built, and all those 3DOs, they all went through this program to work. It's not very complicated. I'm not going over every setting here, but I'm going to, do the main. It should open to here. There might even be a tooltip. I closed it because I don't need it, but you should see an import. You can even add buttons up here, which I do. I add quick buttons, which I think I remember how I do that, because I do want to show you guys what it would be. Let's see here. Let me find it. Don't want to waste too much time because you guys are kind of waiting for me here, but it is somewhat important. Let's see. I know it's here somewhere. Oh yeah, duh. Customize quick access toolbar. More commands. So you can add whatever you want, and I believe I've done for export. I've added save object as 3DO and save model data, and it'll be over here. You just select add and it puts it. So these are the two I use. Save object as 3DO and save model data. And that just puts them up here. So if we go back to home and there's import button, you click it. And I gotta go back to my directory. Got the complete folder. We'll open our OBJ. And there it is. Now it's sideways because in Blender the coordinates are different, and I believe there's a way in Blender you can adjust which axes it points, but this is fine. Not to worry, we can fix this. The first thing we want to do is, because it's still an OBJ, is we want to go up here and we want to do save as 3DO. And we're going to hit OBJ, complete, okay. And you won't really see anything happen, it just saved it. So now we want to go import, and you'll see a new 3DO. So our model is now officially a 3DO, but now what we're going to do is, because it just names it, whatever you named it, you could name it in Blender to something else. We're going to call it stand 01. And, whoops. Actually, it just named it here, but I'm going to close it. There we go. And if you double click anywhere, you can move. If you zoom in and out with the mouse wheel, and then if you just hold left mouse, you can rotate. So that's how you navigate in 3D SimEd, by the way. So you can like zoom in and double click here, whatever. Okay. So now we got to go to the edit, and we have to go to object center because right now it's incorrect. Actually, we should rotate first, I suppose. So hit rotate. You're going to want to rotate the pitch by 90 because it's 90 incorrect. Hit enter again to accept. Now it's the correct. And you can keep it like this, but I like to put the axis at the very bottom because it's easier to move around in sandbox. So go object center, whoops, center model. Bottom, and it just puts it right at the bottom. and it puts it like in the centermost. So there we go. So now we got the model in here and it's been centered. Now we need to apply the texture. So we go to Edit Materials. You'll see 2 here. And we actually don't need that one. I might have accidentally left it over when I was doing crap. But you can see what will texturize it by what's lit up green. So you want to go to Edit. And actually, let's see, can I... Actually, we don't need to do that. What we should do... Before we do this, I'm going to close this quickly. There is a way to purge all the junk that you don't want. Just got to find it here. Maybe it is in Edit. Let's see here. Because I want to clean this one up. Because we don't actually need the 2 templates. Let's see. I know there's a way to do it. Because you can't actually just delete it from here. Okay, so let me find this thing and then I'll get back to you guys. Okay, yeah. I don't really make this mistake ever when I make my models, but in Blender I accidentally duplicated a UV, so I found it. It's just this trash bin purge materials, and it purges unused materials. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go to here. We're going to go, and what I've done, I just clicked it and did Edit, and you'll see a purple box, texture map. Hit OK, stand 1, your MIP. It'll load TGAs too, but then it wouldn't be compatible with NASCAR 2003, and there you go. It's now showing up. So I'm just going to close this quickly. We're going to go purge. There we go. Oh, maybe it didn't delete it. Purge materials. I thought that would work. Because it's not actually being used on anything. Yeah, it's not being used. For some reason, it wants to not purge it. Oh, actually, here's what we'll do. So, we just got that. So I'll worry about that later. Anyways, go back to your texture. So, this is a very simple 3DO, so it only needs a diffuse, but say you had a specular map. You would go to the shader, and it's the only one named NASCAR 2003. It's sphere mask by T1. You'd click that, and then there would be other options. I might do a more advanced tutorial, but if you want to know now, that's how you would add specular maps. But for here, everything's mostly okay. You could even change the diffuse. So say we went black, you can see it got darker. But you can just keep it bright white. You can even add your own color. Ambient. See how much ambient. So you can, even within these properties, you can adjust extra things if you need to. But by default, it should look okay. But if you're like, oh, why is my object so black? It might be because these down here for your colors and blending are not correct. Everything else should be fine. You really don't need to worry about it. You have MIP mapping turned on, which means it's going to show the MIP and the name. You can rename it if you want. Honestly, you don't actually see the name except inside 3D Submed, so it's not important, but I mean, if you want, we could name it, and then you know what you're looking at. But, yeah. I don't know if it'll actually purge it. I know I've done it before. It might be because I accidentally created 2 UV sets or some dumb thing like that. But anyways, so now we've got a 3DO. Basically, we just have to save it as one. So now you go to Save Model as 3DO, and you'll get this pop-up window. And this is what tells you when you're racing on race weekends what your model will do. So you can have it visible all week or only during the race or only testing, but because this is a building, you want it to show up. And then you can make it seen at all distances, so no matter how far away, or you can not, but I like to do that. So then we hit OK. I'm just going to call it stand 2. And then it's saved. Okay. And I'm actually gonna close this. And you need to keep your, whatever you save it as, the MIP name needs to stay, but you can name this like whatever you want. This is a dumb model and it will still connect because this is fine looking for this name here, and they have to be in the same folder or it can't find it. So if I just rename it and I go import, there it is. Let's see if it actually purges it now. Nope. Okay. It might be something in Blender I have to clean up, but it won't affect anything. So anyways, that's really all that. So then what you do is you just go here. This is a development track I made. You would go into your sandbox track, you'd copy your 3DO and your MIP. Then we'd open up sandbox here. It's opening up. There it is. Okay, we go open, airfield, blah, blah, blah. It's a really big track for testing. I will probably do a track tutorial later, but that's not the purpose of this video, so I'm just trying to get here. So you can see I have textures for placeholder testing. So, and then the final test is we go up to object placement, right click, add. Look for your model. Oops. I may not have put it in correctly. Let's see if it does need to be named. I'm actually going to just reopen this so I don't corrupt anything. Because I believe the texture can't be renamed, but maybe the stand either. No? Weird, what did I do? It might be because of that error, so let me double check. Alrighty, so I did find the problem, and it was because it had that derelict material on it. I've gone ahead and cleaned it up, so now you can see I just have this. And what I did is, to fix it, is I just used replace, and I replaced this material with the other one, and then it got rid of it. I kind of pasted over it. I don't know why it created that thing, but if you ever see that issue, just use the replace option, and you want to replace this over that one or whatever. I would have to research more in Blender how I even caused that problem. I don't think you guys will do it, because I was kind of playing around in Blender with the UVs before I started recording. But anyways, so then I saved it out, and so now we go into the track. And you could use a default one that came with the game to do this too. I'm just doing this for here. Add trackside objects. So got a little square. You won't actually see it because that's how sandbox works, because it's dumb, so you have to save it, reopen. And now we can see a 3D object and all its crappiness, but now it's working in the engine. Let's see, let's put it in the ground a bit, just click off of it. So yeah, I hope you guys found this tutorial useful. I mean, the last thing, if you really want to verify, I've never had this problem, but you can go into the game itself and then drive your car around and make sure it looks good. But everything that I've always built when I get to this part, especially because 3D SimEd is pretty much, running an engine in a way of how it can be read in NASCAR 2003. I've never had things look wrong from 3D SimEd or Sandbox. If you get it in Sandbox, then you have a very good chance that it's not going to have an issue. But you should probably go in the game and check every 3D model, especially if you're doing this for the first time. I've been doing this for so many years, making these things, I don't need to really check it anymore myself, but I highly recommend, do it one at a time. But that's basically the tutorial. I hope you guys found this useful. I really look forward to seeing what you make. If you do, on the sim racing design where I posted this, leave some pictures if you make anything. If you have extra questions, also leave it in the YouTube comments, or I highly recommend you go over to 3D Sim or Sim Racing. I'll leave a link to this thread where you can post, any questions. And if you have requests for more tutorials, because there is more to 3DOs than just this. This is getting the most basic version in. In the future, I will do bonus videos probably about how you can make your models the correct scale, because I just did this offhand. This may not even be the right scale, honestly. So I can show you how you can make a grandstand that actually curves around an actual turn, or how a stand, is the right size, or how a building is the right size to the car, how I do that and how it's done. I can do another video on specular maps, so if you have a building with shiny windows or reflections, how that's done. Other tips and tricks for unwrapping, and then I could do a video on how I build a 3D model now. And a lot of those and the program I use is not free, but if you really want to get into this, and you have money to spend, then I can show you what I use and how it's done. But there'll be more videos in the future. Don't know exactly when, but I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial series, and it helps at least one person who wants to make stuff for a track. So until my next video, I'll see you guys around, and thanks for watching.